Good evening and welcome to night 3 of the World Cup of Darts Fallout Bar here with onlinedarts.com. My name is Dan Simpson. I am joined once again by Mr. Carwyn Evans. Now, Wales result aside, Carwyn, how are you?
I am very well, thank you. It's been a great day of darts. I think few matches have lived up to expectations. We've had a few surprises. All in all, it's been an enjoyable Saturday watching from the comfort of my sofa.
Yeah, it's a funny tournament, the World Cup of Darts, isn't it? Because we're used to seeing seeded tournaments, and it sort of takes a while. We see it in the World Championships, but we generally see everyone, and there's this strange couple of days where we get a huge amount of darts, like masses of darts, 24 games yesterday. But we don't see the big guns, we don't see, and so today was the day that the big guns came out to play. Some of them haven't stuck around for very long. So some of them, it was just a fleeting visit for some of the seeded teams, but we will get to that a little bit later in the evening. We do have some interviews. We've got some interviews, reaction from winning teams, so we'll hear from them as we go through. And we'll have a little bit of a chat about the day's action, as we always do. And we will then have a look forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow we will be crowning the 2024 World Cup of Darts champions. So somebody's going to be able to, it's trophy collection day tomorrow. So we'll have a little bit of a chat about that. But I think we'll start off, as the day itself started, with... Now, and this sort of got me off to a lovely start of watching darts today, Carwyn, because Sweden against Czech Republic was a lovely little game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was sort of, to use a footballing cliche, a game of two halves, really, wasn't it? As in, Sweden seemed to be in control, and then all of a sudden the Czech Republic woke up and sort of staged a mini comeback, and you sort of thought, well, will they sort of get over the line? But no, then Sweden and this formidable pair that's developing between them, as in they've really got a good partnership going, got over the line, and I'm excited to see how far they can go tomorrow, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I found it thoroughly enjoyable. Certainly for an opening game, I thought it was great. We got, out of 14 legs, we got 7 breaks of throw, which is pretty, like, in terms of just an entertaining game that you want to enjoy. That you haven't got, if you haven't got a horse in the race, then 50% of the legs being breaks of throw. We saw some gorgeous finishing. We got 127 in game from the Swedish. We got some absolutely lovely finishing. The Czech Republic, I think, yes, they've got out in this group stage, but I think there's no real shame in the way in which, we'll come to it a little bit later on, but there's some teams that have gone out of this and not quite shown themselves in a great light as they've exited the tournament. But I think the Czech Republic have generally positive experience. I think, to come out of the group was good as group winners, and then they've just been beaten on the day by the better team, I think, haven't they? I think is the short but boring way of putting it.
Yeah, I think that's a very sort of a very fair way of saying it. Yeah, and it's nice to see sort of a good battle like that between two, I'll call them lesser nations, but sort of developing nations at the same time. So it's it's sort of exciting to see how these sort of players now progress throughout the year, following sort of this weekend, really.
What I think is interesting is we've seen, and we'll come to some of the other nations as we chat along, but I think we've seen a really consistent level of darts from that team from Sweden. They're not. It's not like all of a sudden that they don't do it in blasts. They're not peaking and troughing particularly at all. They seem to have just found between them a very steady rhythm to work their way through the tournament. And at the minute, it's going quite well. I'm not sure whether, and we will talk about the quarterfinals a bit later on, but it could just be a bridge too far. Certainly, if they keep the level of consistency that they've been going at. But we will move on to the second game that we had today in the second round, in the knockout round. And I mean, let's call them the surprise winners of Group E. Chinese Taipei, who dispatched the much favoured Ireland yesterday to set themselves up with Group F winners Austria. And I mean, I'll throw to you here, Karen, because I'm going to struggle to not repeat all the things I just said in terms of a consistent team that's played all right through the tournament, that edged out a team that haven't disgraced themselves, and it was quite similar in some ways, wasn't it, to the game that preceded it?
Yes, yeah, it was, yeah, and it almost felt like Chinese Taipei might have played the final yesterday. They weren't quite as convincing, maybe, as they were against Ireland, especially, and it sort of it felt like they'd run out of steam. And I think the way they celebrated yesterday sort of showed that they'd exceeded all expectations, and that today was a bonus in a way. And it was great to see them make it to the second round. But I think Austria just an experienced pairing, despite Rodriguez not being that old in age. He's sort of been involved with the World Cup now for many years, and him and Mensah get on well, and he sort of they click, and that sort of showed in the way they won the match, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it can be difficult to remotivate yourself once you've almost, once you've celebrated your biggest ever achievement, to then come back and remotivate yourself again. I can see why that could be challenging. Now, in terms of the level at which they played, we saw from Chinese Taipei an average today of 85. They're sort of, up there, similar to the way they played when they beat Lithuania. Obviously, not quite that massive 95 that they chucked against Ireland. But, again, they didn't play bad. I think the key, the key to victory here for Austria was they started very well. They're taking those 2 breaks, winning the ball, then taking 2 breaks to throw to go 4-0 up. From that point, from 4-0 to Austria, it was very much a sort of 50-50 game, really. At that point, the Chinese Taipei matched them almost blow for blow, but they just got started too late, and they had too much to do, and they were never gonna, top the Austrians' average by 10 points in order to claw back those games. They just didn't come out of the traps quick enough, I think, did they?
No, that was it, and it sort of took them a while to, as you say, to get going. And once you go sort of 2 breaks of throw down, you're always chasing, and it was a shame, really, because I think they deserve probably a better ending than they got in the tournament. But it was certainly they've been a joy to watch, and hopefully they build on it. They return next year, and they entertain us once again. But no, it's been enjoyable watching the pair from Chinese Taipei over the last couple of days.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, we can hear from Team Austria. They met Phil Bars shortly after their victory. So let's have a little listen to what they made of the occasion.
Play final. I tell him, you play very nice. Come back, really. And same come back. I hope play final. Austria team football play final. Not me, not Robbie play final.
We've seen you two create World Cup memories and moments. Is this the year that you two go on and win this World Cup? Because you've been close and you're both starting to play well again. Is this the year that it all comes together?
We always we're not looking. He's telling a final, but I know his mindset. Each game after each game, we won today. We have to win tomorrow, and we're gonna win tomorrow a couple of games. But people know how far we come in 2021. We was an outsider. Nobody thought we was in the final, and why not this year one step further? And we believe in ourselves, and yeah, why not?
Mensah, you've won TV titles on your own. Would you swap them to win the World Cup?
Oh, this is different. World Cup winning, this is okay. I mean Champions League. I mean European tour, but that is different. World Cup, it's for me, for my friend, for my country, for everything is different. I hope and play final. I tell you.
Yeah, I really like, and it's look. I mean, to be fair, it's difficult to create any of the media that's been done by the Austrians this week. You can't really find fault with any of it. You know, they're incredibly positive, very measured, and what I find genuinely refreshing, because we know there are people that couldn't give two shits about this tournament. I'm not one of them. I really enjoy it. I like the World Cup, but they both really want to be there and really want to do well and take genuine pride in representing Austria. And I just think it's a lovely thing. It's very nice that that they're able to do it. And we will come. I don't want to spoil too many of the results that we're going to talk about, but that interview, I believe, took place before they knew. Well, it definitely took before they knew the full route to the final that they would potentially have to take. But I think they didn't know their quarterfinal at that point. And the draw has opened up somewhat, and we'll come to it a little bit later, but Austria going deep in this tournament is, I mean, realistically, likely, rather than, it's not really a case of us convincing ourselves it's possible. Based on the way they've played, they've got a really, really good opportunity. Moving on, we welcome a seed. We finally get to see one of the big four teams, and we welcome Team Scotland, former champions, two former world champions making up the team. And based on we did see, Caroline, an increase in the level that Poland were able to reach. They'd been crap for the last couple. I don't know how in God's name they got through. I don't know, because they've been rubbish. They were better, but it was pretty much the result I think we thought we'd see this, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. As in, when you put Peter Wright and Gary Anderson together, you're always going to expect big things. As in, they're not the quality caliber of player that they can't play together. And yeah, even though Poland did raise their game, Scotland were far too strong. And I think you've got to think that Scotland will be there or thereabouts when they're sort of handing out the big prizes tomorrow night, as in they're able to raise their game as and how needed, depending on their opposition. So I think it was quite nice as well. They both seem to be smiling and happy. Gary Anderson and happy Peter Wright makes PDC darts even better.
Well, yeah, do you know that you say that they look smiling and happy? I'm about to play a clip because we hear from Team Scotland as well. It's quite a short clip. But they both seem to be giggling away on the still image I'm about to click. So let's hear what Team Scotland made of that victory.
Well, Smith, but are you here to cause an upset?
It's the same about the football, isn't it? It's always about England and that, and it never comes good. So why worry about it?
They always go home, don't they?
And that's a bit of banter, by the way, before we talk about it. Listen, talk away. Like I say, be the underdogs and that, and just play darts, yeah, see what happens.
Well, that's not going to make headlines, is it? Gary Anderson just wants to play darts. But no, they certainly seem to be approaching it from the right mindset. I think the interesting dynamic in that team is, and I appreciate it's neither of them at their best. It's neither of them at their career best at the minute is what we're going to see. But we talk of lots of teams where you've got a clear captain and a bit of a wingman, and then you've got the lesser performing nations where you've just got to both maintain a bit of consistency. I think the dynamic that these two have is either one of them is more than capable of carrying the other one. If one of them doesn't quite turn up but the other one's on, they'll still do very well because they're both that good. If they both click, they're an absolute force, aren't they? Again, I think they've eased themselves into it today, just hovering just shy of a 90 average. But yeah, exactly as you say, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I think we could see a little bit interesting game for them next, I think, against Sweden. We'll chat about it later, but I think it's a very interesting one. And that brings us on to the end of this afternoon's session, the first 4 games we had this afternoon on this extended format, now up to 8 games, as we saw what at the time was the game of the day. Probably, I don't know, so to many people it may still be. But for days, Australia have got away with one and then got away with another one and then got away with another one. And they have survived all manner. And they've not been at the races, but somehow managed to come through games. And there was a strong part of me that thought that's exactly what was going to happen right up until that last double went in. But I'm not going to say it's a big shot because we sat here last night and Cam McFarlane picked Italy to win this. Now, I don't know whether he was just doing it to be a pedant at the time and just to try and upset people, but his prediction was right. But this was a hell of a game of darts, wasn't it?
Oh, it was quality. And, I was watching it and I was thinking to myself when Australia brought it back to 6-all, I thought, right, okay, here we go. They haven't led at all. They haven't sort of looked like they're going to win this game, and then they'll just fall over the line and make it into the quarterfinal, because that's what Australian sports stars do. They find a way to win regardless of how well they were playing. But credit to the Italians, because from being, was it 3-1 up, and then being pegged back to 6-all, they could have easily let that get to them, obviously having less experience than their opponents and sort of falling to defeat. So for them to sort of still find a level of performance to get them over the line and to get them into the quarterfinal was fantastic. And I think it's just the magic of the World Cup, really, isn't it? That an Italian darts pairing has made it to the quarterfinal. Who'd have thought that the Italian darts team would go further in the World Cup of darts and the football team would go in the Euros? As in, it's what dreams are made of. It's what dreams are made of.
Do you know what? There is a statistic that nobody would have picked, to pick Italy to go further in the World Cup of darts than the Italian football team to go in the Euros. That is, I'm going to have it. Absolutely nobody picked that at all. But it was a strange. I think the Italians they managed to get their nose in front and then just held their way to the finish line. But the nerve that it took. I mean, I was thinking back. When you see a statistic and you think, or you make some notes, you think, I must be wrong. Did I get that right? Is that at no point in that game did the Italians combine 2 darts to finish. Like the highest checkout was 40. They hit double tops. That's it. They didn't manage. They didn't manage at any point in 15 legs to go bang bang. But they just managed to just keep themselves in front all the way along, and it was a remarkable result. Like everybody, like if you don't enjoy seeing an underdog win, then you don't like sport, for me. And I appreciate there will be lots of people, fans of Australia, that will be disappointed. But let's be honest, all neutrals like to see something like that. It's a really big story. Like Italy is clearly a place where we would like to see darts continue to go, primarily because it's my absolute favorite holiday destination. I'd like to see some more events over there that I can travel out to. That would be marvelous. But we all want to see the game growing in Italy because it's such a lovely country, and they are well represented in virtually every other sport in the world. So it's nice to have to get a tour card holder. But I think credit to both players as well. I think they played really well, very much held their nerve. I'm unsure that they're able to carry this journey on further. I think the underdog story, and a bit like Chinese Taipei, we may have seen their final already today. But we'll come to that a little bit later on. That brought to an end the afternoon session. As we got into this evening, Karen, another sort of game that went all the way, another 15 legs of darts, as we saw home fans broken-hearted, with a lot of people's dark horse to do very well in this tournament. Northern Ireland 7-1 victors over Germany.
Yeah, and it was sort of similar in the Italy-Australia game, where when Northern Ireland took a healthy lead, I think it was 7-4, wasn't it? And I thought, okay, they'll probably get over the line now, and that'll be that. But with every leg the Germans crawled their way back into it, you thought the crowd would play a part and there'd be more noise sort of directed towards the Northern Irish players. But they just held their nerve. And I really, really like the pairing of Dolan and Rock. I think youth and experience, as in, they seem to get on very well, and that's half the battle, I think, with pairs, is having that chemistry between you. And Rock even giving it the Dolan celebration, as it was sort of...
Yeah,
it had
the helicopter up, didn't it?
Had that excitement to it. And I think, yeah...
Love that.
Sorry?
I said, I love that. I saw
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It just shows some, we see that many, and you can just tell, yes, they're from the same country, but it doesn't make them. I'm from England, and there's loads of people in this country I don't like. It doesn't mean that just because you happen to be from the same nation doesn't make you friends and doesn't make it easy to get along with somebody. But they clearly have found something in each other. I very much like you think if you could almost design a team, and I'm not saying that if you don't have the luxury of being able to take number 1 and number 3 in the world, which is let's be honest the ideal, but if you could just design a team, it's almost like what I would want is I want this like young, fast-paced, high-scoring, exciting, fearless player to be brought through this experience of his first World Cup by this history maker, someone who's been there, done it, been on the big stage, measured, like got his sort of head around it all. I think it's great, and I think if they weren't on the same side of the bracket as England, who I think are clear favourites, just because of the two players they are and where they're ranked in the world, and putting them two together, then I think Northern Ireland would be very, very in very good position for a deep run to the final. We do have another interview as well. We can hear from Team Northern Ireland. We've heard from them quite a lot this week, and they've offered some insight and some entertainment in their interview. So let's have a little listen to see what Team Northern Ireland made of it.
I knew we were winning it because obviously Martin kept annoying me. Obviously, whenever people celebrate, there's a wee switch goes in my head, they switch on, and then obviously Gabriel celebrated. I was like, we're winning this last leg. I don't care what anybody says. And obviously, we started off very, very strong, and then just knew it was going on.
You say it annoys you. What does it? Because obviously we've seen you celebrate as well, so I'm guessing that could give them the motivation as well.
I wait to the end.
Yeah, fair enough.
So that's what it means the most. But yeah, obviously the crowd was absolutely fantastic. They were two opportunities they booed, and that's you going for a double 11 and double top, and that was it. They didn't boo any other time.
Yeah, if we're going to win it, we're here to beat everybody, and if we go through it and beat what everybody else thinks is the best, well then, we'll get more gratitude for winning it. So
100%. Pairs is a complete different game because you got the likes of, obviously I'm a fast thrower, Humphreys and Spiffy's a very fast thrower too, so it's whatever way you adapt to it, and obviously who your partner is too, who you click with, so just we'll see what happens. Whoever, it could be France, it could be England, we'll see who we have tomorrow.
Interesting that, and I'd not thought of that, is that there's a school of thought that thinks that having that partnership with Brendan Dolan and might take Rock out of his pace a little bit. But we know how often Humphreys and Smith both excel against fast players because they almost speed them up. They keep them going and keep them going. And we've seen faster players almost lose control, haven't we? They're trying to keep up and they're almost running to the hockey. But Brendan Dolan will not do that. He won't be forced into amending his rhythm and that could, and I think that's it's going to affect the opponent far more than it's likely to affect Josh Rock, who seems to be really in tune with how things are working. But very exciting, I think, for Northern Ireland, and we do know now they've got a big game on their hands tomorrow against England. But that's what we want. We want to see big games at this stage of the tournament. That's what tomorrow is all about. Tomorrow is about, we've had the entertainment and we've seen the underdogs and we've done all of that. But tomorrow is about seeing the big boys try and pick a trophy up and win a title, isn't it? So let's see where we get tomorrow. Next, we saw England against France. It was all right. I think again a bit underwhelming. The England team, I think, did enough to win with little coming back for them. I didn't think they motivated themselves massively because there wasn't a lot coming back at them. They didn't have to. I think they almost served this one out, didn't they, Carwyn?
Yeah, that's exactly what they did. As in, I don't know if the French played the opponents maybe, but they didn't offer much. And it must be hard when you're the world number one and the world number three to be partnered with the other player, because for 360 odd days a year, he's one of your main rivals on tour. He's the one trying to knock you off your perch, or you're the one trying to keep him off your perch. So for them to have to pair up, then it can't be easy, and it's going to take a bit of time, especially when, as you say, both players, they like to play quite fast. They like to keep the game going. When you're only throwing one in every 4 visits, then your sort of rhythm goes out the window. And when you are somebody who sort of does rely on that, it'll take a bit of time. As in, I fully expect them to be better for tomorrow when they face Northern Ireland, or Northern Ireland could do them. But I think they're certainly capable of picking their game up. And it's just, again, it just takes a bit of time, really, especially when you come in on the 3rd day of a 4-day tournament. You haven't got time to really get up to speed unless your opponents have an off day like the French team did this evening.
Yeah, definitely. We've got another interview, which is good. We keep getting interviews, which is smashing. 1 second, hang on. Where's that gone? Bear with me 1 second before we have that interview, only because the cable's come out of my MacBook, and if I don't plug it in, then we shall befall a crisis. There we are. We're plugged in now. So let's see what deep insight and thought Team England have got on the matter.
Yeah, it's all about trying to grow the.
I remember playing in when.
Yeah, it's all about trying to grow.
I remember playing him when he was fat.
Well, that's insightful. I've got a longer one.
Oh, we spoke about this. He told me about the bullseye. He hasn't got a good record for the last couple of weeks. You go for the bullseye one now, and then he went. We spoke about he was going first. This is my 4th one now, or 5th, or whatever it is, and I've been first every single time. And he was like, "Right, you go first then. We'll keep it the same. You do what you're doing." And
egos go out the way in these tournaments. We're a team, and I feel like he's got the more experience. So it'd be silly for me to think I can go first and everything's going to go right. We made the right decision. The person with the most experience goes first, and you kind of look at it. If we're playing well, and 12 darts have gone by, and he throws the 13th, he sits on tops. If we're playing well, you're leaving the best top seer in the world at that moment. So if we play well, that's what will help us. So I think we got it in the right order, to us.
You came in as the overwhelming favourites for this tournament. Michael, obviously you've been part of the England team for a while now. Is this the best England team we've had since the glory days of Phil and Adrian? Do you both feel?
I think this is, especially the last 2 years, like he said before, I won the Worlds and he's won it. There's no better player in form than him at the minute, and I'm starting to get back into it. I don't think there is. He's number 1, I'm number 3. I was number 1 last year, sadly, and I've lost my ranking, but I don't think there is. I don't think there's been a better team, because the way we complement each other in the scoring and the finishing, I don't think there's anyone better than me and him at the minute. I remember playing him when he was fat.
If I wanted to be a twat, I could probably pick in quite a bit of whether or not there's any possibilities of putting out a better England team, and whether we are likely to see an even better one next year. But they're certainly the best. I think the best team that we've seen for the last few years in terms of how they are both approaching it and the level at which both their games are at. We've seen them both make finals night of the Premier League in very recent time. I do think they're going to have to step it up a little bit. But yeah, it was a decent performance. They came out and they got started, and they didn't have a banana skin. Now, speaking of banana skins, Carwyn, and I apologise for having to put you through this, mate, but your lads just didn't get it right tonight, did they? they managed to average better than virtually every other team that played today. But it was almost like we talk a lot about doing the right things at the right time, and there was an element for Wales tonight of just doing the wrong things at the wrong time, wasn't there? And it just didn't. The whole thing just didn't come together.
Yeah, and I don't think it helped that obviously all the build-up from a Welsh perspective has been Gerwyn Price pulling out, Jim Williams coming in. How will Jim cope in Gerwyn's shoes? And sort of even what, and don't get me wrong, as in they are massive shoes to fill, but I don't think questioning the replacement about that is the best way of getting him in the right frame of mind for the World Cup at that. And I do think it's a bit of a thing for me is the last few years, Gerwyn's been the captain and Johnny's been the wingman, and it's worked. As in, Clayton sort of warms up as the tournament goes on and finds his best stats in the semi or in the final. Having to sort of change his role this year and him not being in the best form of his career probably didn't help him either. But yeah, as in, I don't want to take anything away from the Croatians because I think they've played very well throughout the tournament. And when I saw the draw, I did sort of think, ooh, Wales could have had an easier last 16 draw, but disappointed to lose. But yeah, it's one of those where just didn't go right on the night. As in, they've averaged over 90. As in the pairs, you can't sort of turn your nose up at that. But yeah, just weren't quite, not good enough tonight.
No, and I think it's a real difficult one, and I feel a little bit for Jim Williams, if I'm honest. Being, I mean, you can't turn it down. You know, you've been offered the opportunity to play for your country in the World Cup, like, and clearly, you know, he's a proud Welshman. He's not going to say no to that, but he's really out of form, Jim. So I had a quick look, and since the UK Open back in the first week of March, I think he's won 3 games, maybe 4 games, and that's across, our 12 events maybe, between Pro Tours and Euro Tours, and he's just not, he's getting a grand here, a grand there. It's not, his ranking is not too bad because he's carrying some money from when he was in better form. But the last few months is just, you look through and it's almost blank after blank after blank after blank as you go through his what he's picked up. So I did feel for him a bit. Again, if you feel a bit for Johnny because his role in that team has changed, and with the greatest respect to Jim, Johnny's gone in with one of the best players on the planet, and he's then not got that situation, and they may have benefited. I know there was a lot of talk. I don't know what your view is on this as a fan of the Welsh darts team, and that there was a lot of talk about whether or not they should have held on to the seeding. My view, as an outsider, is I think it might have been better for them if they hadn't. I think it might have been better for that team to come through a group than what happened today, and ease their way into the tournament against some more winnable teams, let's say, and build up their bond a little bit playing together. What do you think?
I agree with you, and I think had Gerwyn Price announced earlier that he was withdrawing due to injury, I'd have liked to think that would have happened, because they certainly didn't warrant being the 4th seed this weekend based on the team selected. And I agree. I think had they had 2 games leading up to today, they'd have been in a different frame of mind. They'd have hopefully won 2 games quite comfortable, built their confidence up, built the chemistry up, and then when they've gone into a longer format game, been ready for it, as opposed to sort of having to learn all the things you need to learn about your partner during a last 16 match in the World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's tough, but like, I don't want to not give credit where credit's due, because Croatia have looked strong. To be honest, like they've looked very strong. They look relatively comfortable in the group, but not just in terms of the level of comfort and you know, I think a lot of people fancied Canada and that Croatia brushed them aside. You know, they've averaged well, they've scored well, they've been quite consistent with their finishing over the course of 3 days. And as much as we say the draws opened up for other people, but the draws opened up for Croatia. Croatia have opened that draw, and they've earned the right to be in that next round. And it would be foolish, I think, for anybody to view them as an easy route deeper into the tournament. Moving on to the final game, our last second round game, as we found out who our final quarter finalists would be. And I'm almost going to hand this straight to you, Carolyn, because when we spoke very briefly before we came live, you summed it up almost when I asked you whether or not it was a shock or an upset or a surprise, you summed it up perfectly. So I'm just going to hand it off to you this one as Belgium beating the Netherlands 8-2.
Hopefully I remember what I said now, but no, as in the result of this game didn't surprise me. With everything that's going on with Belgium, they look a very good pairing despite the indifferences. But what did surprise me was the magnitude of the victory. As in, I did not expect them to win that comfortable, especially when I think the Netherlands averaged higher than Belgium as well. Which, when you think of an 8-2 victory, you sort of think of a one-sided affair, don't you? You don't think of a team averaging higher being destroyed by that sort of scoreline. But I think I saw the Belgium interview after the draw was made, or I've read something somewhere, and you can clearly see that they don't care who they play. As in, I don't think they particularly care that they don't get on, because once they're on that stage, they're in the Belgian colours. They know they've got one job to do, and that's to win for their country. And you can't ask for more than that, really, in a performance at a World Cup. As in, I know England will rightly be favourites because of the rankings in the PDC, but I don't think you can write Belgium off at all, especially now that side of the draw. They must be thinking, oh, okay, we've done technically the hardest bit in beating the second seeds. Why can't we go all the way?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's they were clinical, the Belgians. You know, we saw some big finishes from the Belgians in this match. Big combination checkouts, 53% on the doubles, 8 from 15. We saw the Netherlands, you know, again, you mentioned there, the Netherlands averaging slightly higher. The Belgians got 15 darts at a double. The Netherlands have got 14. They created virtually as many chances to win legs as the Belgians did. They had as much opportunity to put this game to bed, and they could have very well won 8-2 themselves. But they took 2 from 14% on the doubles. The doubling wasn't there. Again, we said it earlier, that, you know, the great man himself who does the right things at the right time, that was very much absent from both of the Netherlands players this evening. And yeah, and one of the biggest seeds and most fancied teams outside of, I mean, let's be honest, you know, people who support England picking England, you know, one of the most fancied and strongest teams without a doubt in that field is that Netherlands team, because Danny Noppert is no mug either. You know, he is a big time top level elite player. We can hear from Team Belgium. Obviously, we heard it a little bit straight after somebody put a microphone in their face, but Phil Bars has been there with his microphone, the online darts microphone, in front of Team Belgium now.
And the 1-2-9 went in. The 1-2-1 was especially hard because they missed already 3 darts on the double.
Then you brought up the 86. I took the 86.
You took the 86 out, and then if you keep doing that, you're going to be so painful to opponents. And you know what? I've never heard Michael van Gerwen being quiet, and I haven't heard him the whole game. Normally he has the biggest mouth on the whole Pro Tour. We've both experienced that.
We know
he's
how
tried to bully us so many times. He's a fantastic
player, mentally and talent-wise. He's a fantastic
player. But I've never heard him being so quiet during this game.
Yeah, he's right.
I heard Danny Noppert screaming more than Michael van Gerwen.
What did Michael do say behind the stage? He was like, this was a draw of meant to happen. That's what he said. And I just looked at him like, I think after like the past few months, I understand what you said, but I was not expecting that we was going to play this game, but then again, they played a phenomenal game as well. I was ready to like rumble, but I am that proud, so proud of what Belgium just done against the Netherlands.
Never doubt yourself.
I never do.
It's the strangest thing. Like, I cannot. Some of their interviews, like I can't even get my head around the way that they interact. Sometimes sometimes it's almost like they're in a competition to make sure who puts on the best show of the fact that they think the other is a dickhead. Like, it's remarkable sometimes. But I mean, it's very, very difficult to argue with what we're seeing at the minute from Team Belgium. They have been absolutely superb. They're on a really, really interesting side of the draw. Don't forget, folks, if you for all of the clips, we've shown you some short and condensed versions of the clips tonight. All of the interviews from tonight's winners and today's winners, in fact, will be available and are available on our YouTube channel. So please make sure that you are subscribed so that you get some notifications when they land. But you can get full versions of all of those interviews on our YouTube channel. Do that, though, later this evening once we have talked about some predictions for tomorrow, because tomorrow is the day that the trophy will be collected by one of only just 8 teams now remaining. What we'll do, Carolyn, we will have a quick flick through the quarterfinals. Who do we think is going to win and by what score? And then we'll pick a winner each and see if we can get anywhere near being accurate. If you are in the chat room, as we've done for the last few nights and as we always do on the Fallout shows, please join in. If you are subscribed to the channel, then you are able to comment in the chat room. We can see all of your. Marco has arrived with his absolutely buzzing celebrations about Italy. I thought of you today when I saw that victory, because I was I knew you would have been watching with great joy. So let's get some predictions in as we go through them. Please, in the chat room, just let us know what you want or what you think is going to happen. Format for quarterfinals tomorrow is the same as we saw today. So it's the first of 8. We'll get 4 quarterfinal matches in the afternoon session, followed by semi-finals and a final in the evening. I don't think we know yet what the order of play is tomorrow afternoon. We don't know who's going on first and who's going on last. So we will just go in bracket order. By the way, the bracket looks on the screen that I'm looking at. So the first game I've got, Carolyn, is a quarterfinal between England and Northern Ireland. If you would like to tell us what you think is going to happen in that one.
Well, this is probably the tastiest tie.
I think this one will go on last. By the way, I think this is what will be. I
was going to say we'll discuss it first, but it'll be the last one on, I'd imagine, because it's the one you want the crowd warmed up for. You've got on one side of the draw, you've got the 1 number 1 and the 1 number 3. On the other side, you've got probably the best pairing we've seen in the tournament so far. If a game could finish in a draw, I think it'd be this one, because I think that's how close it's going to be. I do think another game for Smith and Humphreys will make them better. And I think they'll get over the line 8-6.
See, I was finding this. So I did think, and if on opposite sides of the bracket, I thought this was the final. I really did. And I do think that if England don't click and lift their game, then they'll get caught. Because I think a bit like we talked about Wales earlier, and it being beneficial for them to come through a group and to not just turn up cold. But are those English lads just too good? That's the question. It's whether or not they're just too. The level's just too high, and whether the Northern Ireland team can stay with it. I feel like I'm boring picking England, but I am going to pick England because I think it's what's going to happen. I think England win 8-7. I'm going to put it all the way. Shelty's got England winning 8-6 as well. He's agreeing with you, and Kieran's got a slightly wider margin, 8-5. If you are in the chat room, feel free to get your predictions in. Next game, which is in the same bracket. So this is to set up a semi-final with the winner of England and Northern Ireland, is Scotland against Sweden. And I think this is quite an interesting one. I'm looking forward to this game, Carolyn.
Yeah, I'm the same, to be honest with you. I think it's got a lot of potential to go deep, a bit like the first game. But I do think Gary and Peter they'll just have too much for the Swedish pair. I do think experience wins the day here again, and I think it could be 8-5 Scotland, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Again, I think the Swedish have been so consistent and they've been brilliant, but I'm not convinced they've got another gear that they can sustain in this long format. If we were still playing the shorter format, then I might give them a better chance. But I think with the potential of 15 legs, if they do find another gear, which they might do, I don't know if they can sustain that other gear. Whereas it only takes one of these Team Scotland players to be on their B game consistently, and they'll probably put it to bed. And because of that, I'm going to go with an 8-4 victory to Scotland. Shelty's gone with an 8-5 Scotland as well. He's gone exactly the same as you. He's followed you on 2 matches now. He clearly thinks you know what you're talking about. Right now, this is potentially a game that a lot of people might not have thought we would see at the quarterfinal stage, but I think that makes it quite interesting because I think it's bloody level in terms of what I think is going to happen. And so Croatia and Austria. What are your thoughts on Croatia and Austria?
I think this might be decided upon. I don't like to call them wingmen, but whichever one of the wingmen plays best. I think both captains will throw similar standard. They'll throw something similar, but it all depends who can back their captain up. And I think, based on what I've seen, that Croatia win 8-7.
Oh, well, I'm glad you went for that because it does mean we finally disagree on something. Because, and the only I think it's a really tight game, and it's really difficult for me to not go 8-7 as well. I think it's a really tight game. Because of that, I am having to give the edge to Austria just because of that experience not just of winning things. We know we've got a former Champions League winner and he won some Euro tours, and I just think they've done this World Cup thing before, and they've come through tougher challenges in the World Cup than what they'll get against Croatia. I think Croatia will give them a tough game, but I'm going to go with Austria with an 8-7 win for Austria in this one. What's Shelty got in the chat room? 8-6 Croatia. Now, I don't know if Marco's still in watching, but please weigh in with your view. Try not to, or try and use your head, not your heart. But can we see another upset from the Italians? And surely this would be a much bigger upset considering what we've seen over the last few days from Belgium. But Belgium against Italy, Carwin, can we see another? Is this where we're going to see an upset, or do we see Team Belgium romping towards the latter stages?
I'd love to see an upset, as in the fairy tale of the cup and all that, and I'd love to see the Italians make it into the last four, because I think it would be amazing for dart as a whole. I think to have a nation which is very much still in the development stage of professional steel tip darts. I think if they could make the semi-final, I think the country would erupt. And what a way to get over football heartache than by seeing darts glory. But I just think Belgium, they can put their differences aside and they can turn out 97 average performances, and that's very hard to beat. So I think Belgium win, hopefully not too comfortable, but it could be another 8-2 Belgium.
Yeah, I was gonna. I'm heavy Belgium. I'll give them an extra hold, just so that we're not replicating. I'll give them an extra hold of throw, and I'll go 8-3 to Belgium, because I would have gone 8-2 if I'd have gone first. I'll give them an extra hold of throw, but I think Belgium get in and dominate that one early in the day. I think the afternoon session will be a good one for them. Right from there, we're not going to talk through potential semi-finals and everything else, but all I will ask you, Carwyn, one last question as we bring to an end fallout bars for the 2024 World Cup of Darts. Forgot even what we were doing there. What is completely comedy? Well, it wasn't so much that. I think it's just what year it was, and passed me by once again. Who is winning who's lifting the trophy, and who do they beat in the final, Carol? According to your bracket in your brain, who's lifting the trophy and who are they beating? Same question to the chat room as well.
Scotland beat Belgium to become World Cup champions.
Ooh, that's tasty. Boom, 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 boom. Do I? Did I predict England to beat Northern Ireland? I did, didn't I? I'm going to have to stick
yes,
with it.
you agreed with me, yes.
So I'd look a right dickhead picking Northern Ireland to be in the final, wouldn't I? I'd look a complete fool. In which case, I will have England being beaten in the final by Belgium. I just think they're at it. And I've seen no evidence to suggest that they're going to get beat yet. Like I've not seen anything that makes me think that they might not win this at all. And I might think twice about that if England turn up, average 104, and dick Northern Ireland 8-1 tomorrow. Like I might think, oh, actually, these lads, it's going to be easy this. But at the minute, I'm feeling it, and I think Belgium are gonna go all the way. The interviews are going to be carnage tomorrow night if they win. Right. That pretty much brings us to an end, folks. We won't come and do a fallout tomorrow night after the final, because what we will do is we'll pick all of tomorrow's action up on Monday night in the live lounge. Myself, Phil Bowes and Jack Garwood will go through that with you. As always, we'll be there from 8 o'clock on Monday night. Thank you all very much, and thank you for the last few days. It is the first time we've ever done fallout bars for the World Cup. So great to see you along in the chat room. The general feedback seems to be pretty positive. I think it's been quite fun. I've certainly enjoyed it. Caroline, it's been nice for you to join us a couple of times this week. It's been really good to have you on board this week. Thank you very much for coming along and joining in as well. Yeah, thank you all very much. It's been absolutely smashing. And with that, I'll see you all Monday night, and we'll see you for a fallout bar. Oh, right. I'll tell you what's exciting. The next fallout bars are the match play. It's there. It's Blackpool time. Yes, fallout bars at the match play. With that, I'll see you all in Blackpool. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.